Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're heading into some really unsettling territory. We're looking at true accounts from military personnel, people who've experienced things that just don't have easy explanations. These aren't your typical war stories. They're glimpses into something genuinely strange, experiences that stick with you.
That's right. Military life itself, the isolation, the stress, sometimes even far from the battlefield, it can create this unique psychological space. And sometimes that seems to open the door to encounters with the bizarre or even the truly terrifying.
Definitely. So let's start with a really chilling one. This comes from a U.S. Army veteran, spent 9 years in mountain warfare infantry. He knew the Adirondacks like the back of his hand, thought he knew all the wildlife, bears, moose, you name it. But this one time, it was August 12th, he's camping with a friend, Carrie, deep in the park. The evening starts fine, relaxing by the fire, music playing. Then this overwhelmingly rancid stench hits them. He said it was like nothing they'd ever smelled. Sour, wet dog, stinky foot, musky, just awful. It lasted maybe 10 minutes, then gone.
That immediate sensory assault, the smell, it's a classic element in these kinds of unexplained encounters. It immediately puts you on edge.
Exactly. They tried to brush it off, maybe a weird animal, who knows. Later, they go down to a creek nearby to look at the stars. After about half an hour heading back up, that terrible smell comes back. They both smell it. And then splash, a huge splash right behind them in the creek.
So smell and sound.
Yeah.
And in the dark, in the wilderness, that's deeply unnerving. Your senses are screaming danger, but you can't see what it is.
Right. They froze. He whispered, "What was that?" Carrie was freaked out, just wanted to get back to the tent. They backed away, super alert, but nothing else happened that night, though the smell sort of came and went. Next morning, he goes back to the creek trying to figure it out. He picks up a rock, like softball size, throws it in, makes the exact same splash sound. And that's when he remembered his friends, the Squatchers, talking about Sasquatch, how they supposedly have this rank smell and throw rocks, stuff he'd always dismissed.
Connecting those dots must have been quite a moment. From dismissal to maybe. Maybe there's something to it.
Yeah. Okay, so fast forward 2 months. October 12th, same area, but now the weather's turned nasty. Heavy rain, freezing like 28 degrees. They're forced into the tent early, bundled up, listening to the rain. He's starting to doze off. Then he hears it. A loud sniffing sound outside on Carrie's side of the tent. He whispers, "Carrie, you hear that?" She says, "I was about to ask you." Then another loud sniff. Not like a deer or bear, he said. Deliberate. Right after that, slow footsteps start circling the tent. Heavy steps. Sneaky. And definitely, he said, bipedal. 2 legs.
Bipedal changes everything. That's not just an animal anymore. That implies something different, something possibly intelligent observing them.
Absolutely terrifying. Another sniff, he grabs his machete, he figures, yell, and most animals will bolt. So after a few more steps circle around, he shouts, "Hey!" Silence. Total silence for like 30 seconds. No running, no crashing through the brush, nothing. Then another loud sniff, and the footsteps come right around to his side of the tent. They stop maybe 3 feet away. Another sniff. He said his heart was pounding out of his chest, but then, the weirdest part, all the sounds just stopped. Footsteps, sniffing, gone. Silent. Never heard it leave, it just vanished. He stayed awake for hours, machete in hand, just listening. Says thinking about it still gives him goosebumps.
Wow. The deliberate approach, the bipedal movement, the sensory elements, and then the silent disappearance. Classic cryptid encounter elements, hitting all those primal fear buttons. Isolation makes it so much worse.
Okay, let's shift environments now. From the woods to the close confines of U.S. Navy ships. Isolation of a different kind. First story here, a Navy guy from the Vietnam era. He and a buddy are heading to the mess hall one evening. Ship's pretty quiet, they're in this multi-level crosswalk area, and behind them they clearly hear a heavy metal door open and slam shut. They turn around, nobody there.
Phantom sounds on a ship are common, but a heavy door.
Yeah.
That's distinct.
Yeah, they thought it was odd, but kept going. Then these very loud footfalls start up behind them, getting louder, and they could feel it, vibrations in the railings, the floor plating, and this cold feeling creeping up their necks. Now, this guy saw combat in Vietnam, wasn't easily scared, but this freaked him out. He and his buddy look at each other, no words needed. They just start backing away. Once their own steps were out of sync with the heavy ones, they knew it was real. They just booked it. Ran balls to the wall into the mess hall. There was a naval officer near the door who saw their faces, saw the panic, and the officer just gets this look of understanding, nods slightly. Clearly they weren't the first.
Ships have their own ecosystems of sound. Metal groaning, machinery humming. You can play tricks. But physical vibrations, a shared experience, and that officer's reaction, that suggests something more persistent, maybe something tied to the vessel's history.
That idea of history clinging to a vessel leads us right into the next one. This is aboard the USS Peleliu, an amphibious assault ship. Long service life, lots of stories. Our narrator was a female aviation ordnance man, working nights, way down below the waterline in the weapons magazines, very isolated, and this ship had its famous ghost story, Shaft Alley Sally. Supposedly a little girl who fell through an open scuttle that's like a hatch during a Tiger cruise maybe 20 years before, died instantly.
Ah, the classic ship ghost story, often tied to a specific tragedy.
Exactly. So one night, she's down in magazine 10, super remote, high security, doing homework, nods off. Wakes up suddenly, kind of groggy, drooling a bit, thinks she's alone, starts packing up, then she sees them. Dark eyes looking directly at me from behind some pallets. She wasn't even scared at first, just said hello, the eyes darted away, figure gone. Just then, her coworker, Johnson, comes in. As he enters, they both hear a crash. And this little girl, maybe 9 years old, totally unkept, sprints across the room and dives down a scuttle into the lower level. Then she wakes up again, same spot. Still doing homework, still drooling. Johnson walks in, says the exact same thing as before. She starts shaking, tries to tell the girl, and right then, a blood-curdling scream comes from that lower space below the scuttle. Then she wakes up a third time, same spot, alone, terrified, covered in drool. She immediately calls her supervisor, basically demands they come get her. Now, her colleagues gave her hell for days, called her a medium, joking about it.
That repeating dream sequence is psychologically intense. The false awakenings, the layers, it blurs the line between dream and reality in a terrifying way. But the shared sounds with Johnson, that complicates things.
It gets weirder. 2 weeks later, this guy Davis, who mocked her the most, gets assigned to magazine 10. He comes back up looking white as a sheet, just muttering, nope, no, screw that. Said while he was climbing down the ladder, he could hear a little girl singing clear as day. Freaked him out so bad he came right back up, refused to go down there alone ever again. Then, months later, a new guy joins the ship. He'd been working in the captain's office. He tells them the captain casually asked him if he'd met Shaft Alley Sally yet, and then the captain told him the exact story of the little girl falling through the scuttle years ago.
Wow. So the dream, the shared auditory event with Johnson, Davis hearing the singing independently, and then the captain confirming the ship's legend, that's a powerful confluence of events. It really suggests, well, something deeply imprinted on that ship connected to that tragedy. It's hard to dismiss.
From these kinds of hauntings, let's turn to the more immediate, visceral horrors tied directly to conflict, where lines get very blurry. This next one is from a radio operator in Vietnam. He talks about the initial shock of combat, seeing dead Viet Cong soldiers up close for the first time, just kids, really. Then a few days later, he gets assigned to this strange intelligence officer, Frederick Douglass, and his unit. These soldiers wore gas masks constantly, acted, robotic, emotionless. Infected, he thought. He got curious, maybe a little disturbed. Peeked into their main hut one day. What he saw, it was grotesque. 6 murky containers on a table. Each one had a severed head of a guerrilla fighter inside. There were tubes, wires hooked up to them, a green liquid. And he said the mouths and eyes were quivering, like they were somehow still animate. Officer Douglas caught him, furious, dragged him out, warned him off. Next thing he knows, he wakes up a day later in triage, broken ribs, fractured collarbone. No memory of how he got injured after seeing those heads. Never saw Douglas or those soldiers again. Still wonders what on earth they were doing.
That is deeply disturbing.
Right.
War pushes people to extremes, obviously, unconventional tactics, psychological operations. But that description borders on something else entirely. The psychological impact of witnessing something like that, even without understanding it, and then the memory loss. It speaks to extreme trauma, perhaps even unethical experimentation shrouded in secrecy.
It's a truly horrifying image. Okay, our final account comes from Nightmare Files during an Afghanistan deployment. Intense stuff. They're in a small, blackout FOB forward operating base, lights out at night, surrounded, been hit before. They set up a patrol base during a mission. Observers report hearing Taliban, but can't see them in the dark. Then a local man approaches. Their interpreter starts talking to the man, then turns to the company commander and says the man wants food and water. But our narrator understands the local language. He knows the interpreter is lying.
Oh no, that's an immediate red flag.
A huge red flag. The local man was actually warning them, saying the Taliban outnumber us and they knew about everything we were doing. They were about to attack. The narrator realizes the danger, confronts the interpreter, looks him in the eye, says, "That's not what he's saying. You're lying." The interpreter's eyes go wide. He screams, "Allah Akbar," runs to his bag, grabs a detonator, squeezes it. Boom! Bomb detonates right inside the patrol base. Instant chaos, shots fired from everywhere. 7 guys hit immediately.
The ultimate betrayal. An enemy within.
Exactly. It turns into brutal close quarters fighting, dark, confusing. A sergeant named Smith, a guy everyone looked up to, is killed. When they finally roll him over, his face is just frozen in this silent scream. It completely shattered his buddy who saw it. Seeing this tough super soldier go down like that just made everyone feel incredibly vulnerable. The narrator realized the enemy wasn't just outside, they were inside the base, maybe 10 meters away, hand-to-hand fighting. They ended up losing Sergeant Smith, but had 18 wounded, 13 shot. Everyone, he said, was mentally wounded, said you find out who you really are in moments like that.
That account is just pure terror. The betrayal, the sudden violence, the close proximity of the enemy, the psychological impact of seeing the leader fall. It's the nightmare scenario. It highlights how the most terrifying enemy isn't always the one you can see coming, but the one you thought you could trust. The scars from that run incredibly deep.
Absolutely. These stories, they're all harrowing in their own ways. They really show the extreme, often unexplainable things people endure in service. What's the thread that connects these for you? What really stands out?
I think it's the confrontation with the incomprehensible. Military training prepares you for known threats, for the horrors of conventional combat, even for psychological stress. But what happens when you face something truly outside that framework? Whether it seems supernatural like Shaft Alley Sally, cryptids like the Adirondack encounter, or just utterly depraved like the Heads in Jars, or the ultimate betrayal in combat. How do these experiences, these moments that defy rational explanation or violate fundamental trust, reshape a person's entire understanding of reality long after they've left the uniform? That's the lingering, provocative question for me.
A chilling thought, indeed. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into these unsettling accounts. Thank you for joining us on this journey into some pretty dark corners. If you found these stories as compelling and, frankly, as eerie as we did, please do like this deep dive, share it with anyone you know who appreciates a good scare, and make sure you subscribe to Horror Docx for more explorations into the shadows. We'll catch you on the next one.